Okay. So, who here has not used Unity before? Okay. And are you guys programmers?
I think so.
Okay. I'm gonna disappoint you. I'm not gonna show any scripting because there's no time enough for that.
Okay.
But you can get the project from me afterwards if you want to have a look at like how things are done. So this is Unity, which is a wonderful game engine, and I'm not just saying that because it was made in Denmark, where I'm from. It's very easy to use, and you can make quite like complex games with it. Supports both 2D and 3D games. And today we're going to create a space game.
Excellent.
You're going to control a little spaceship, and then you're going to like avoid asteroids and try not to fly into the asteroids. So this is Unity. The main window we have is the game view, and this actually shows you like what your game actually is, and you can hit the play button up here, and then the game starts playing. And right now nothing happens because we haven't done anything yet, so we just see like default skybox. Then we have the scene view, where I can actually navigate around the scene that I'm currently editing and currently playing in the game view. And the content of the scene, you can see that over here in the hierarchy. So right now we only have a camera and we have a light source. Whenever you click on an object in the hierarchy, it gets selected over here in the inspector. And this is the window that allows you to see like to basically look at an object inspected. And Unity is a component-based game engine, so you're always going to have a transform component that tells you or tells Unity like the position, rotation, and scale of your object. And then depending on if it's a camera, well, you have a camera component. If it's a light source, you're going to have a light source. And then the project view tells you what files you have in your project. And if I hit, this is where we're gonna start on the TV kitchen approach, because I've prepared a bunch of assets from home that are here. So let's say you downloaded some textures from the internet, you want to get them into your game, you just navigate to your assets folder in your project and you copy paste them in. And go back to Unity, and now Unity will import them for us. So whenever you have a game, for example, and you have like a texture, on like a wall or whatever, it's not actually a PNG or whatever the source file is. It's always like a format that's specifically meant for the graphics card, and Unity just handles that in the background, so you don't have to worry about that. All right. So we have a space game. So we should probably start by creating some space. And with that, I mean we're going to need a background. So I'm going to create a quad. And I'm going to make sure we can actually see it inside our camera. I can see it down there. The camera starts at this default position, and I actually want it to be centered, but like 10 units in the Z axis behind. So anything that is like placed at a Z value of 0, that kind of becomes the plane that we play the game in, will be visible. So if you have selected an object and you then are in the scene view, you can press F, and then you automatically zoom over to it. Now I need to find my stars. Here. Boom. Now if we go in here, you can see we have. I just think I'm gonna arrange this a bit, so I'm gonna put this down here. Now I can see my game and also edit at the same time. Up here, you have different tools, so you can translate stuff around, move it, you can rotate, you can scale, and you can also do all of those by using QWERTY down on the keyboard, so I'm going to do that. Look at that. I think I'm actually going to rotate it and hold down control. It should do it in fixed increments. There we go. Boom. Game. Okay, so now we have a nice background. I'm going to save this scene because I'm so proud of all the hard work I've done so far. Jeez. Best game. Okay, so we need to start to add something that the player can actually do in the game. So let's add a player character. I'm going to go up here in game objects and then create an empty one. So the only thing that has is the transform component, and then I'm going to name it player. And I have a super nice spaceship model. I'm then going to drag up here. And then, like right now, it's facing butt first. So I'm gonna rotate that a bit, and I think I'm also gonna rotate it a little bit this way. Well, it's trying to get something that looks like a game. So we need to get this this thing to move, and thankfully Unity comes with a physics engine. So I'm going to add a bit of physics to it. And looks like we have we have a compiler. Great. Don't edit your script like right before you leave home so you don't get warnings that you didn't do it all the way through. There we go. Yes. It's okay.
Gravity.
Yes, and that's not very spacey. So let's set the gravity to 0, and now our little spaceship should stay in place. Okay, so now we have physics on it, but we need some we need the player to be able to control this. So I've already made some scripts, and one of them is called player input. You can see here that there's these two properties on it, and if I go into the game again, you can actually see that they change whenever I provide keyboard input. In general, it's a really good idea to compartmentalize the behavior like scripts, so you don't have one script that is doing 10 different things, because if you break it up into multiple scripts, you can actually reuse them a lot more, and that means that the non-programmers on the team can start to say, wait, what if the players could control 10 different things at the same time? So it allows for more creativity with the code you already have. So let's play a move, and this needs to know about the player input. I'm going to drag that in there, and it needs to know about the rigid body. I can control it. And the cool thing is I can also edit this at runtime. So let's say we want light speed. But it's worth noting that if I now hit stop playing, then it doesn't save the values I've edited on the game objects. You can actually do a little trick by going in here and say copy component, and if you do that while you're playing, then you can then paste the values back in. So that's a little handy tip. Okay, we have something that's interactive. Woo! but we don't have anything that makes it harder, or there's no challenge and there's no game loop. So I have a script that creates asteroids, but to start with we need to have an asteroid. Good thing I have one right here. So if I just have that, there's the store. There we go. So if I just drag it into the scene, because there's no collider on it, it doesn't actually react to collisions. So what I need to do now is both at a rigid body, so we have physics on the asteroid. And it's a 2D rigid body, so it's 2D physics. And I also need to add a collider, and there's multiple different colliders, and depending on what you're doing, one is going to be more performant than another one. Since this is a fairly complex shape, this is the joy of 3D graphics, it's actually rotated the wrong way. There we go. So I'm going to use a polygon collider, because it's a bit of a weird shape we have here. So in general, it's a good idea not to go too overboard with making your colliders accurate, because in the middle of playing a game, the players won't actually notice if it's not exactly accurate, and it also affects performance. So now we have a collider on this one, but we also need a collider on the player. And this is a bit of a game design tip. Whenever you have a collision that is negative for the player, it's a good idea to actually make it smaller than the model itself, because then the game feels more fair. So I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller than the artwork actually is. There we go. Alright, so now we should have some physics. Yeah. Oh, but now, oh no, what happened to my ship? Yeah, so
Angular momentum.
Angular momentum, my nemesis. Good thing I have this little checkbox. So there we go. There's also another thing, if the player can just escape the screen, there's probably gonna be exploits from that. So let's quickly make a barrier that keeps the player in. So again, I'm gonna create an empty. And you can see I'm paying quite a lot of attention to naming the objects as I'm making them. Otherwise, you very quickly end up with a scene that it's really hard to figure out what's actually happening. Okay. And this time I'm going to use a box collider because it's more efficient and easier to edit. And we need to center this. Unity has this habit of, if you create a new object, it will put it where you're currently browsing, and sometimes you don't you're not exactly the place where you want to be. So just be aware of that. You can see I get this little green outline. If you have any questions, just feel free to shout. As you can see, I'm quite buried in the machine, so I can't actually see if you look perplexed. In perspective mode, I'm going to put it to orthographic. Look at that. So if you make 2D games, it's a good idea to turn the camera to be orthographic, because then things doesn't scale with distance. Okay, so we were here. I just started some physics on that, and oh yeah, didn't get all the way to align these. That's actually quite a handy thing. I didn't even notice this before now myself. I think when you turn the camera into, yeah, okay, so you can see like the camera outline. That's quite handy.
What shortcut are you holding there to make it turn in increments?
That is control.
Just
Alright, so now I collide with the walls, or with the side of the screen, which is good. Problem is my asteroid also collides, and I don't actually want that to happen. So what I'm gonna do is set up something called physics layers, and that basically allows you to control what collides with what. And the way that you set them up is you go in here on add layer, and then you can name your own. I've already created one that's called level barriers and one that's called asteroid. So I set these to level barriers, and then I change the asteroid to be in the asteroid layer. And now, because I have again more TV cooking, already set this to be unselected, so that basically means I don't get collisions between level barriers and asteroids. So now, if I go in, boom. Alright, save the scene. So the next thing we need to do is to get these asteroids to like be spawned in, so we get like a bit more of a level. And if I have something that is just as script, I usually create a separate game object for it and call it the same as the script, so it's easy to find it in the hierarchy. And there we go. So this script has an array where I can assign asteroids that I want to spawn in, and I have to make them prefabs. And a prefab is basically it allows you to save an object that you have created in the scene, so it's in the project, and that means that you can use the same prefab multiple places in multiple scenes, and it also means that you can instantiate them at runtime. So I'm going to create a folder for that. Prefabs. Boom. And then I'm going to drag this fella down here. Whenever you assign something in Unity, it's usually just like a question of dragging and dropping. So I'm going to drag that over here, and it's added in. I could do the same thing with something in the scene, and then I would be creating copies of that. But if that original object is then destroyed, I would try to create something that's not there anymore. So that's why it has to be a prefab. I'm going to delete this one. Yeah. All right. And we have some spawning. So this script actually creates them from its position. So it needs to be out of the screen up here. And then it has a distance where it starts deleting them, so we don't end up with like a gazillion asteroids like slowing down the game behind us. So just type that in. Now we should start getting some. It's a game. Well, not quite, because I can't actually die. You can be the most tidy like space man in the world. Like, no, my space is not void enough.
I really like this as a game. I think this is much better than like getting hurt by them.
Space declutterer.
Yeah.
We can also adjust how quickly. There we go.
That's really cool.
Oh, nice.
All right, so the next thing we need to do is to make the player actually die. So how do you make someone die? Well, you write a script for it. And this script reacts on collision with asteroids and then destroys the player object, and instead it then creates an explosion, or like it instantiates an explosion prefab. And thankfully I should already have one. No, actually I don't. Okay, now we're gonna make a really bad particle effect for this. It's gonna be great. Effects, particle system. And then I'm gonna change its shape, so instead of a cone it's a sphere. And I don't wanna emit like over time, I just wanna like emit it first. Let's go with 300. There we go. Look at that amazing artwork. Gonna save that and just gonna name it. Down here. Maybe I'll remove one. And then I'm gonna put this in. Yeah. Yeah, this is not working. Why is it not working? Well, right now my my little spaceship, it can collide with asteroids, but it can also collide with the walls. So if I was just checking for any kind of collision, I would also destroy myself as soon as I like hit one of the edges of the screen. So what I also need to do is have a way to like show that this is an asteroid. And for that I'm going to use a tag. And again, as with the layers, you just go in here and add them in. But I've already made one. There we go. All right. And I think we need a bit of. I think like you guys do audio here, right? I mean, it was definitely loud beforehand. So let's add some audio. Audio source. Some sweet music. And then I just found my music. Make it loop. Okay.
Get some volume on
Yeah, that's some sweet spacey bass.
Gotta get some volume on that.
All right, so that's a sound that is like that keeps looping. I also want when the ship explodes that we actually get something, and it's quite handy that I already have a game object that's spawned when that happens. So I'm going to create another audio source and find my explosion flare. Alright, I could go on. I was like sitting at home being like, I just need to make a little stupid games to like share them tomorrow, and then I ended up spending 8 hours on.
No way.
Have you got the 8-hour game?
So So I give to you asteroid bait.
Wow.
Oh, nice.
And
Oh, the tilt.
this is actually all made with free assets that I found on the asset store. And I added this little simple mechanic that you can shoot asteroids. And it's actually quite interesting because you can very quickly end up creating like a roadblock for yourself, so you have to use it like strategically.
You're very good.
Making the game or playing it?
Awesome.
That's really cool.
How do you get the glowing text? Was that
The glowing what?
the game over was really glowing?
Oh yeah, so you can do UI in Unity in two ways. There's a regular text component and there's something called TextMesh Pro, which is what everyone should be using because it's clearer.
Yeah.
It uses something called distance field rendering, and it also allows you to do like crazy stuff like glow and like outline and so on. If you're doing any kind of game that you're actually shipping with Unity, you should put that in because the default text component is just awful. It doesn't render crisp.
It's very weird.
Yeah.
Was it called something pro?
TextMesh Pro. It used to be something you had to buy, but now they bought the guy who makes it. So it's like I think like you can select it in the drop down when you're creating components, and then if it's not in the project, it will just import it. So it's really easy to get started.
You've kind of got these rushing star particles as well that are coming past.
Yeah.
A real element of speed.
You've got some.
Also, when you go back, like
Yeah.
when you're making a game that's about action and player control and like feeling good, you need like multiple ways of like feedback. Ideally, I would also have some sound on like when I'm going up and down and like speeding backwards and forwards. But what I'm doing here is actually really simple. I'm just like rotating the little spaceship based on the horizontal length, both like sideways but also up and down.
Yeah.
And then I'm scaling the particle system that's behind it, so we get like a nice. Okay, now I'm boosting that
Zooming
up.
effect.
Is all the fog and stuff, is that just like some post-processing?
This is actually that is the same particle that's used for the stars. It's just like blown up really big, so you get a little bit more like a sense of movement. And there's two layers of the star particles to get a bit more like parallax. I was thinking of having the asteroid spawner create asteroids in the background. That wasn't actually like part of the gameplay. Because I think that would look better, like it would have more depth, but then you have that question of like, is it then readable what is actually not?
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Maybe some planets.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up playing this for like half an hour today trying to beat my high score.
Looks great.
Yeah.
The lighting.
Anyone want to try?
The lighting's really nice.
What?
The lighting.
Yeah.
About 10,000.
Alex,
Yeah.
what was your high score?
7,300.
7,400. Okay. Here he goes.
It looks great.
Yeah.
That plane is doing pretty well by itself, isn't it?
How did you do the jet coming out the back of it? Is that another particle?
Oh yeah, it's a very simple particle system. So it's basically just creating like one particle very quickly, and then there's a little bit of like jittering on. I also stuck a light source on the plane, so you can see that you actually get a bit more visual feedback that now you're close to something. There's also a light source on the laser shot. It's quite interesting, like just adding a bit of rotation to the asteroids made them a lot more interesting, because now sometimes you can like time your way through like
Yeah, that's really cool.
So this little game certainly had a lot more like emergent behavior in it than I thought it would have.
Are you gonna keep working on it?
No. I think I'm probably gonna put it up on my itch.io page
Yeah.
or something like that, because I think it's actually quite fun. Like,
You could even
The
make.
shot causes rotation as well.
sorry.
The shots cause equation as well.
Yeah.
Cause rotation as well.
Yeah, and that's another interesting thing. Like, quite often, like, if you shoot an asteroid so it goes that way, then it will cause other asteroids to actually fly back at you, and then suddenly you create like problems for yourself.
You should maybe just turn it into a Unity store asset. Because you said that everything inside it was a store asset, right?
I'm not allowed to redistribute it.
Ah, okay.
I would actually have put this up on GitHub as an example project, but you're not allowed to if you're using as a store concept. But I can release it as a standalone game. So
Okay, yeah. That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that either.
yeah, it's like licensing for you. I don't think Unity would actually come after you, and all of the stuff that you see here, it's all assets that are by Unity. There's also post-processing on it, so that's what gives it like there's bloom, so bright colors become like brighter and bleed into the rest of the screen. There's motion blur, so you can see that it's a bit of like slurring when you move around. That's also why the star particles look so nice.
Yeah.
And a bit of chromatic aberration.
8 hours, you reckon?
Yeah. If I had to like not just use like a sample project, it would have taken a lot longer because like finding assets or creating them.
Again, the player input scripts and controller scripts and movement scripts are fairly generic. You would say, like you say, you use them elsewhere, and then you can just input them.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's so good.
Thank you very much.
I guess I should also plug myself or what I'm doing. That's the game I'm actually working on now. It's called Hover Cabby.
Yeah.
It's about a flying taxi. If you can like guess that. And there's a Twitter account for it if you want to follow how that's going.
Nice. Last time I saw it, it was stacking into buildings.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
All right, that's me.
Thank you. Great.